Anderson, he's on your left with blue in his deck. Again, for counter spells mostly, you've got Dispel, you've got Disdainful Stroke and Negate, Stratus Dancer as well. I know Chris considered some other options for a blue splash, like Sagu Mauler and Exert Influence. There's a lot you can do with blue, and as I mentioned, the splash is relatively free. Lumbering Falls certainly does help facilitate it as we are underway here in round number 10 from Atlanta. Betts will sacrifice 2 fetch lands. He's going to go down to 18, a basic island and a mountain. And I believe we'll be seeing a Jace here in just a moment. A good start to Jacob's day.
One of the best openings that any deck can really have against Bant Megamorph. One of the big vulnerabilities, creatures with activated powers. And I think that's part of the reason you're seeing a lot of Jeskai here this weekend. You have creatures with great activated powers in Jace Friends Prodigy and Soulfire Grandmaster. You can add Dragon Master Outcast to that list as well. It's a little bit different, but same concept. The deck is also vulnerable to flyers a little bit, and so Mana Strider makes a lot of sense too.
All just good cards.
Yeah.
A basic Plains here from Chris. We'll see if he has a turn 2 play to make. It is rather interesting to me, at least. You know, this Bant Megamorph deck or Green-White Megamorph, what have you, one of its weaknesses is Jace, but many of the players that I've talked to, as far as on the Megamorph side, they feel like their matchup against Jeskai is pretty good. Yeah, Jace is a really good card against me, and it's pretty difficult for me to kill outside of Silk Wrap and Traboka's Command, but I can work my way around the powerful Planeswalker.
It's not impossible. We've seen people beat Jace, but it's one of the best starting points you can have for a deck like Jeskai.
Betts. He'll discard an island. There's a Battlefield Forge. And now he'll pass the turn back over to Anderson, who will take a draw. Picked up a copy of Valorous Stance. Hangerback Walker for 1. That's how Chris got his day started. And he is looking at a player who does just have 3 open mana. No Mantis Rider cast last turn for Betts. It can mean a bevy of things, so Chris is certainly going to think his turn through. He'll start by attacking for 1 with the Hangerback Walker. The follow-up here for Anderson is the main deck copy of Evolutionary Leap. He's just playing 1 this weekend. He'll play a copy of Canopy Vista, pass the turn back. Jeskai Charm's going to put Hangerback Walker back on top of the deck.
But now, you know, Jacob does need to speed things up a little bit here. With Jace and Jeskai Charm, it was looking like he would have a pretty solid path into the mid and then late game. But that's not going to be the case against Evolutionary Leap. Anderson's going to be able to extract a lot of value, and we've seen this before with their player being favored in the late game in spite of a lot of removal on the other side of the table.
Mystic Monastery was the card that was discarded. Jace does flip, and now new Jace enters the battlefield. We're heading back Anderson's way. We know what he's drawing, which is, of course, that Hangerback Walker that was placed on top of his deck. So not only does he have to beat 1 Jace, now he's got to try to beat 2. Prairie Stream is the land. And you see now where the splash, we typically call it pretty free, but his lands have entered the battlefield tapped quite a bit here.
And we've seen that a lot with the splash for Lumbering Falls, where it runs a lot of interference with your battle lands.
Jeskai Charm is going to be recast thanks to Jace. That's going to put Death Mist Raptor on top of the deck. Jacob getting very aggressive with his Jeskai Charms by denying Chris draw steps here.
And there's not a whole lot else he can do. He doesn't want Anderson to untap and activate Evolutionary Leap. Jeskai Charms won't really do very much else with Anderson at 19. We're not looking at dealing 4 to him here, so it's the best that Betts can do with his resources right now.
Smoldering Marsh was the land there for Betts, and now we'll pass the turn back over to Anderson, who, of course, drew Death Mist Raptor. So we'll see which way Chris wants to go now. He's got the option of Hangerback Walker for 2. He can play Death Mist Raptor face up or as a morph. I think he might be considering the morph route here so he can leave green mana up for the Death Mist Raptor. Or excuse me, for the Evolutionary Leap. He's going to go with Hangerback Walker just for 1. Now we'll pass the turn back. Leap, a very powerful card in this deck. You expect it more in the sideboard, but Chris giving 1 a try in the main deck this weekend. Just a land there for Betts. He'll pass the turn back. Here is Death Mist Raptor as a morph. Now, you are playing a Megamorph deck, so it could be anything. And actually, Chris does have a Dent Protector in his hand, but Betts does not know that, as Betts will draw a card. There's a Dragon Master Outcast.
And this is a really important card for Betts to have here. He can't, or not to say he can't, it's very unlikely he can win this game by controlling it forever. That's a function of Evolutionary Leap. But going beatdowns, that's a way to win.
that will help give him a clock. And Dragmaster Outcast has been this really interesting card. I've talked to a lot of Jeskai Black players this weekend, and we saw it last weekend, most notably with Clay Spickelmeyer when he was playing for top 8 and watching him kind of take control of the game and being returned via Oshai's command. And I said, okay, well, how has this been for you guys outside of that one experience we saw last week? And a lot of players have said, this card's really good in this deck.
Yeah, you know, ideally you're looting it away with Jace, but even if you have to cast it, it's not the end of the world. But the amount of mileage you get in the late game as a result of having Oshai's command in your deck is really something with this card.
A Gideon is here for Anderson. And we might have a Knight ally on the way. Now, we've mentioned so many times that this Megamorph deck is good early, middle, and late. Well, we're kind of in the middle stages, working our way to what I would consider the late stages of the game. And we'll see how well it can really stand up to dragons being made by the Outcast, because those are no joke.
No. I think there's been a slight operations error here from Anderson. I think he probably should have cracked his Windswept Heath before doing all of this. Now if he cracks his Windswept Heath looking for green mana to activate Hangerback Walker or to activate Evolutionary Leap, Betts can respond with a removal spell and prevent Chris from getting an activation from Evolutionary Leap.
Well, Chris will just now pass the turn back. No real good attacks to be had. There's a Wild Slash that's going to go after Gideon. Dragmaster Outcast will trigger, so there will be a dragon entering the battlefield here in just a moment. And Jace is going to tick down, flash back the Wild Slash, likely to go after the Gideon again to get that off of the battlefield. However, you take a look at Betts' hand, it looks like 2 lands and a copy of Crackling Doom. So not a lot going on there, really relying on the Dragmaster Outcast and the dragon that's going to provide to help win the game.
Doesn't matter, though. Anderson has a very short window to get this Outcast off of the table.
Yep.
And that's the recipe for beating Evolutionary Leap, is you have to go aggressive. Continue the game through removal, and creatures on the ground does not work, so you need to get some flyers going. Something that will help Anderson here is that he has Hangerback Walker. It's grown fairly large. When he decides to sacrifice that to Evolutionary Leap, he's going to have a lot of chump blockers for the dragons, but that's only buying him some time. That's not a long-term solution.
Yeah, we saw players try to control Michael Majors via Evolutionary Leap via removal. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. Not the way to get it done. Valorous Stance is going to try to take care of that dragon. And it'll get the job done. Anderson's hand right now, Ward of the First Tree and Den Protector. Looks like he's coming in the red zone a bit here. We'll see if he wants to go towards Betts, if he wants to go towards Jace. You're being pulled in some weird directions here because he's already got a Jace that's flipped. Betts is now going to activate the Jace that he has on the battlefield after blocking Hangerback Walker. That will transform it into a Planeswalker. That means the old one will die. The new one's here with 5 counters. The rest of this damage appears as though it's going to come through. And now Chris, we'll see how he wants to add to the battlefield. He'll go with Warden with the ability to put it to level 1 here if he'd like to. Tasigur is the play for Betts. He'll delve away a healthy amount of the graveyard. He's going to leave himself with just a Jace down there. The rest will go away. Again, remember, he's got a Crackling Doom in hand and enough mana to activate Tasigur if he'd like to. He also got a dragon there from the Dragonmaster Outcast. Evolutionary Leap is going to be used here. Hangerback Walker going to be sacrificed. So you're going to get 3 Thopters and go through the deck and reveal a creature. Let's see what Chris is able to find. He finds a Warden. Now Chris is going to sacrifice the Morph, which is a Death Misraptor. So he's going to keep going with the leap here. Let's see what he finds now. Looks to be a Nissa.
I think the big priority here for Chris is just to find more copies of Hangerback Walker. He can race here with Evolutionary Leap if he generates enough Thopters.
Well, he found another copy of Nissa. This will be a pretty interesting game. Nissa able to find some lands, work him towards more mana, which I think he's interested in right now.
Yep. I mean, with Evolutionary Leap in play, all mana is good.
He's going to go with a Morph, which I believe is Den Protector. And getting ready to pass the turn back. Now, Den Protector will bring back Death Misraptor, of course, and I think the card that Chris will bring back from the graveyard is likely Valorous stance here?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still playing this racing game, and killing a dragon, killing Tassiger, that's still valuable for him. And he also just has nothing better to get back.
Dragon going to come across. Unclear if Betts remembered his trigger there with the Dragon Master Outcast.
Yeah, I believe he also forgot to plus last turn with Jace, so just moving a little bit too fast.
Yep.
And this should go without saying, but every dragon counts.
At this stage, yeah. Yeah, it does.
And now, because he doesn't have that dragon, getting back a Valorous stance and killing Tassiger opens up a large attack for Chris.
Now there is Valorous stance. Deathmiss Raptor comes back. Den Protector unmorphed. It'll get a counter, of course. We've seen this song and dance before as we head back Anderson's way. He'll draw a card, picks up a Plains. Plains is a land for the turn. And here comes some beatdowns. Chris working his way into the red zone. So much, in fact, that he's happy to even attack with Thopter tokens. Crackling Doom will be cast. And it looks like Betts has another copy of that card in his hand. So there'll be some interaction here, I think, before the blocks by Jacob.
Yeah, it seems likely that Jacob is going to try to clear out the 3 power creatures here. The Den Protector and the Deathmiss Raptor.
Chris going to play Valorous stance on Tassiger in response. And a Valorous stance of Betts' own. Means that Tassiger isn't going anywhere. Now, Crackling Doom's still on the stack waiting to resolve. Now, Chris has got a real decision to make on what to sacrifice.
Would imagine that we're going to see the Den Protector here, as Tassiger does not have a good block on the Deathmiss Raptor.
Okay. Well, Tassiger looks like it's ready to do some blocking. Well, we can't forget that Tassiger is indestructible at this point, this Valorous stance, so it can jump in front of that Deathmiss Raptor pretty healthily. Chris might pump the Warden, and he will. So he's able to force through 5 points of damage here. And he'll sacrifice the Deathmiss Raptor. Actually, he'll just let it go. Take that back. Look, he's got some other things to do with his mana. A Warden. And now he'll pass the turn back. So the dragon is coming here for Betts, so long as he does remember the trigger, and I believe that he did.
Yeah, he was pointing at the Outcast. I imagine that's a trigger.
We will see in just a moment. There it is. Mantis Rider, another addition to the sky here. And if you're Betts, you got to keep on attacking.
Yep. You can see the longer this goes on, it's not clear that Betts is way behind because of the Outcast, but shorten the game, I think, is the plan here.
Anderson going to take 3 in the air. Sacrifice a Thopter that blocked the Dragon to Evolutionary Leap. Added another Nissa to his hand. He's got 3 of those in the grip right now.
And now Jacob has produced a board that's fairly hard for Anderson to attack through, which is another success.
He's just gummed up the works here in a big way.
I mean, all 3 keywords on Mantis Rider here are critical.
There's Nissa. That'll resolve. Anderson will search for a forest. And then Nissa will flip in just a moment here. And we'll see how Chris wants to use the Sage Animist.
I imagine that Chris needs to be going for plus here. I don't think the 4/4 gets him very far on this board. And he needs to get himself an opportunity to find Jerboka's command to fight down the Outcast. Maybe Valorous stance is productive here, but I don't think a 4/4 changes his fortunes much.
Silk Wrap, maybe an option
Yeah,
too.
Silk Wrap would be great.
Something to slow down the Outcast. Maybe pick off a Dragon or a Mantis Rider. He needs a removal spell. That's what he needs. It's going up. It's just a forest. That'll enter the battlefield. Nothing too exciting there.
And Anderson's leftovers not very good. Just a couple more Nissas.
Yeah, Chris is going to be on chump blocking duty here. The one thing that he does have the ability to do, sort of, this is a bit of a stretch. It involves the Warden and going all the way to the top with that thing. It's at level 1 now. He can work it to level number 2 at some point in his turn cycle.
It's going to be a challenge because of Jason crackling Doom.
Yep.
That's already the thing getting sacrificed, and I doubt Betts is going to open up that line of play for Anderson.
Another dragon on the way here for Betts. And another Manish Rider off the top of the deck. This makes things very easy. Flying is very powerful against the Megamorph deck, and you see an example of that right there. Jacob Betts will win game number 1 here over Chris Anderson. Jeskai Black up a game here over Benton Megamorph. As we get ready here for game number 2, we will start with Anderson's sideboard and his 2 Dispels, 2 Disdainful Strokes, and a Gate, 2 Stratus Dancers, 2 Surge of Righteousness, 2 Evolutionary Leap, a Master of the Unseen and Island, a Stasis Snare, and a Citadel Siege.
I think that Chris can pretty safely bring in his copy, extra copies, of Evolutionary Leap. I think that the copies of Surge of Righteousness are okay in this matchup as a way to answer Manus Rider. The 2 Dispels also seem great to me.
On the other side of things for Betson, it's Jeskai Black deck. What's he got over there?
Another Dragon Master Outcast, a Dispel, 3 Disdainful Strokes, a Felidar Cub, 3 Radiant Flames, a Crackling Doom, a Kolaghan's Command, a Narset Transcendent, a Tragic Arrogance, a Slumgar's Command, and a Slumgar the Drifting Death. Love Slumgar the Drifting Death here. I can get behind Slumgar's Command. Tragic Arrogance seems great. I like the Felidar Cub as a way to answer Evolutionary Leap, especially good because you can get it back with Ochiai's Command. He can bring in the Radiant Flames for this matchup too, if he wants to be a little bit more controlling, and definitely the second copy of Dragon Master Outcast. We saw what it did in game number 1.
Relatively good there, huh?
It was, it was just 1,000 dragons in a spot where I don't think any other card in this deck would have been able to win the game, so I think we're going to be seeing the second copy.
Well, as these players get ready here for game number 2, we will talk about the fall creature collection here with Star City Games. We got playmat sleeves and player bundles of some of our fall favorites here with game night.
Yeah, you see the hippo, the otter, the reindeer, and first time this morning, gonna need to collect myself.
Okay.
Penguillian Click.
Very well done.
Available over StarCityGames.com/creature collection or our dealer booth at any of our opens or any Grand Prix that we're at.
Chris Anderson and his players had a lot of success here on the Open Series this year. He's got a top 8 at the Season 1 Invitational where he played Green-White Devotion in Standard, 16 Open Series top 8s with 1 win, a 9-time Hearthstone Legend, which, from what I understand, that's difficult to do.
Is a mixture of challenging and time-consuming.
Okay.
Need to have a lot of time to commit to it.
Fair enough. Brother's lead singer for the rock band We Are Forever, and he started playing Magic at the young age of 4. He's been slinging cards for well over half of his life.
Yeah. like
90%?
7/8 or whatever.
Yeah,
we're approaching 90% now at 25.
He's been doing this a long time. He's been traveling the events for some time. Not his first time in Atlanta, trust me. And he's off to a great start here yet again this weekend. Is the Indianapolis, Indiana native. 8-1 here with Bat Megamorph, though down a game against Jacob Betts. Betts with his Jeskai Black deck, one of the most popular decks in the room. And we will have that day 2 metagame breakdown for you. Probably after round number 12, Nick Miller's going to gather the data as we had quite a few players make it into day number 2. And as we work our way into SCG States next week, as well as the Pro Tour, I'm sure a lot of people are interested in that information.
Deck lists are extremely valuable right now. People are going to be playing big tournaments next weekend, the Pro Tour, of course, state championships, and there isn't that much data on the balance. There's 2 large tournaments that you get to go through, so every little piece of information you can get is very valuable.
At this point, you're doing what Adrian Sullivan and Jerry Thompson love to do, just data mine.
Yeah.
Just get as much of it as you can, sift through it, see what's going on.
I think that data mining implies something a little bit more formal than what most people are doing. I think most people just scour the list until they find something that did well that they like.
And you're just looking for ideas in this process,
Yeah.
No one's expecting the deck list to be perfect at what you're looking at, but maybe you find a card like a Dragon Master Outcast. You think to yourself, what the heck's going on there?
Right. The first time I saw it on the deck list, I just thought, this is kind of cute, you know?
Yeah.
And then I watched a game where it was involved, especially with Ojutai's command, and then I thought, oh, this is a real thing.
Yeah, this is cute no longer.
Yeah.
This is an option and something to play towards. A Jace there for bets. Anderson starts off with a Warden of the first tree. That's already a 3/3. It's at level 1. We'll see what's next here for Anderson. He'll play a Windswept Heath, attack here for 3. And now it's another Warden. For bets, he's got an active Jace out there. He's going to activate it right now. Time to draw and discard. Picked up a copy of Flooded Strand. A little surprised not to see Anderson activate the Warden right away on his turn.
Yeah, I think he's leaving up Dispel.
Ah, makes a little more sense now.
Okay, so just to let everybody
He'll sacrifice that Windswept Heath, get himself a Canopy Vista. Now we might see that activation. It's a little bit risky in the face of Wild Slash, Fiery Impulse, and all that jazz, but it looks like Betts has none of it.
Yeah, we have seen the Jeskai Black Tech for all the talk of, the mana's good and it's easy to play the 4th color. We have seen the inconsistencies come up.
In this deck especially, multiple times yesterday.
Yeah, the mana base is very sensitive. I mean, you have Mantis Rider and Crackling Doom and a variety of basic lands. It doesn't take that much variance before you're not playing your spells that efficiently.
Deathmist Raptor there from Anderson. Betts is already down to 8. He plays the Polluted Delta, and now he'll activate Jace.
It's be a really good time for Radiant Flames.
I've seen worse times for that card. Discard a Swamp. This is what we were kind of talking about, where this Megamorph deck, it is very mid-rangey, but there are draws like this where you're just out of the gate real fast.
Yeah, and the fact that it's versatile in that way also makes sideboarding against it very challenging, because if you bring in all these anti-beatdown measures, you can get buried by the Den Protector, Deathmist Raptor, Hangerback Walker, Evolutionary Leap parts of the deck. If you try to sideboard for all those kind of cards, then draws like this involving Warden of the first tree might be too much to beat.
Mantis Rider is here. It's going to surf in for 3. We're going to head back Chris Anderson's way. He'll take a draw step. And has a copy of Deathmist Raptor at hand. Just drew a copy of Prairie Stream. There's a Forest for Chris. He'll attack with all of his creatures. Warden's going to trade with Mantis Rider. 6 damage will come across. I believe Betts is going to fall down to 1 now. And we'll see if Chris has a follow-up or not. Looks like he'll go with a Morph, which is a Deathmist Raptor. And simply pass the turn back over to Betts. Betts will draw, looking for Radiant Flames. Gonna activate Jace. Aha!
Ooh, on the last draw. And I think Anderson doesn't really have any leftovers in his hand. I don't know if Betts is gonna be able to flip the Jace is the big question, because he can't break any fetch lands for the rest of the game. That is card number 5. He's in a pretty solid spot now.
Yep. Radiant Flames is here. That's gonna clear everything up, I believe. Chris is
double checking to see if it's an instant so he can dispel it.
No. No, you
I know
cannot.
that look.
Yeah. Now he is in some trouble. Mystic Monastery, Jace will move up. Betts is stabilizing at 1. Anderson will draw a card. Picked up a copy of Jamoka's command. A little late.
Now, Anderson's still in great shape if he can find a Morph.
Yes.
He unloads an army of Deathmist Raptors and Betts is at 1, and most of his ways to fight through this are at sorcery speed, but Anderson needs to find it soon.
Well, fortunately for Anderson, Betts does not have land number 6 for the Dragon Master Outcast. Chris, I believe, just picked up a copy of Lumbering Falls, which isn't so bad here.
Yep.
Dispel and Jamoka's command here in Chris's hand. Now there's a copy of Dig Through Time. Dispel is going to take care of that real fast, but Betts has a Dispel of his own. So, this game is turning in a big way, as Chris Anderson is leaning very far back in his chair. Betts will take a look at the top 7. He just found a copy of Crackling Doom there.
Yeah, I mean, you can also get behind land number 6.
Yeah.
And something like Tassiger. I mean, a lot of good lines here for Betts. Land number 6 seems important, though.
Well, you want to turn on that Outcast if you can. Betts is untapping. Now he's drawing. Mystic Monastery in the hand.
Soulfire Grandmaster also picked up, and if he took a removal spell, he is really starting to pull away here.
There's a Soulfire Grandmaster. And now a copy of Jace. Now that might be a little aggressive. I thought he took a Crackling Doom there.
I'm happy with him just getting some chump blockers on the table.
Yeah.
Because all he's got to do is, if Lumbering Falls doesn't kill him this turn, and the Outcast doesn't die, he's in a commanding position. So I don't mind throwing a Jace out there and just saying this is on chump blocking detail.
Nissa. Things getting a little interesting now.
Yeah, this game has gotten pretty swingy here, pretty back and forth. I would imagine Chris now is going to use that Dromoka's command in hand, take care of this Outcast.
And this is going to flip. Chris being pulled a couple different directions here because he drew Nissa. I thought that turn we might see him activate Lumbering Falls and then cast Dromoka's command, also get the attack in as well. Maybe clear some of the nonsense out of the way. But Nissa kind of changes what he wants to do because he's going to play this land. He's going to transform Nissa into a Planeswalker. Though, with this on the stack, that's pretty adorable. Nissa will flip now.
Little fancy pants.
Yeah. This is going to start at 3. Which way do you go? Down to 1. Elemental. Crackling Doom does a nice job assuring this up, though.
Yeah, Bet still has to make sure he doesn't get killed out of nowhere. Out of nowhere is not the right way to phrase that, but getting killed out of somewhere by Lumbering Falls.
Yes, yes.
Would not be fair to say it's out of nowhere since it's a card on the table.
I'm inclined to
You know
agree.
what I mean.
I do. Do I know what you mean? Here's a Salumgar's command. Well, we get confirmation on the modes here from Jacob Betts. This is a card that's starting to work its way into the format here. Now, this is really powerful stuff. It's just it comes at a price.
It's definitely, it's pricey. But we're seeing people willing to pay a lot of mana for versatile counterspells. And this certainly qualifies.
So it's going to be destroy target Planeswalker, which is Nissa, return target permanent to its owner's hand, which is the elemental token that Nissa creates. So the Nissa problem has been solved here. What it looks like Betts did not do is he did not take Crackling Doom off that dig through time. So Jace's going to take up to 9. We're going to go back Anderson's way. He's empty-handed. He needs a big draw. Den Protector, of course, being the best draw. And hello.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if it's Den Protector, but it's a morph.
Doesn't matter which one it is.
It sure
they
doesn't.
all play.
Yep. It sure does not matter.
Please report to customer service in Gary E. Please report to customer service.
He's going to cash in Jace.
All right.
Looking for an emblem and going the mill route.
Also looking just to free up the other Jace.
Sure. I wouldn't want to mill any Death Miss Raptors, just saying.
It's going to be pretty tough to manage with Betts at 1.
Yeah.
He's on perma-chump blocking duty. I suppose he can get Radiant Flames and reset most of this. The problem is that Chris has a lot of ways to manage the Death Miss Raptor. Also, he can turn some of them into 4/4s via Mega Morphing, and then Radiant Flames is off the table as well. So this is going to be a challenge.
And also, we don't even know what that morph is. That morph could be Stratus Dancer.
Sure.
It could be Den Protector, which gets back to Dromoka's command. Dromoka's command makes it so that Radiant Flames deals 0 damage. There's a lot of things that can happen here.
And the Stratus Dancer, I think the Flyer just kills him.
Yeah. Death Miss Raptor will work too. It'll come back as a 4/4 because it's been unmegamorphed. Chris is going to get back Death Miss Raptors, both face up. And things have changed. Now Anderson will draw. Didn't get a great look at what he drew, but he looks like he's reaching towards old Lumbering Falls. Everybody in the red zone. Jacob, because he's at 1, he's got some blocking to do. Jace is going to block here. Grandmasters will do some blocking. Lumbering Falls, looks like it's going to come through. Life will be gained, life will be dealt because of lifelink here. We'll see exactly if this Jace can be activated or not. You see Chris already looking there at the table spotter. If players had said the damage is going to resolve, you can't activate Jace at that point. And that's what it looks like has occurred. Once you agree that damage is taking place, that's the end of it.
Right.
If you say these are my blocks, I'm going to activate Jace before damage, that's fine. Dispel is the top deck there for Chris. Take care of Ochai's command. Heck of a draw there for Anderson. Yeah, he wanted to gain 4 and bring back Jace. Chris said absolutely not. Now we get ready here for game number 3 as Chris Anderson with a timely draw there of a morph is able to finish that game off against Jacob Betts. Betts with a heck of a comeback there almost.
Yeah, no, he came back, almost came all the way back from 1, but did not have a lot of closing speed there. Anderson had a lot of draws for him, just any morph to overwhelm Betts, found Death Disruptor, and that was too much to overcome.
Well, game number 3 between these two players, about to be underway. Jacob Betts will be on the play. But in the meantime, we will talk about SCG Game Night, the very popular promotion here with Star City Games, where in this month, as you've seen on our lapels, you can get our good friend that we lobbied for almost 2 years, the Hippo.
Finally, delayed but not denied. The Hippo, the October Game Night kit. You can head over to starcitygames.com/game night. Find the game night closest to you. Stores can run this event any day of the week, any format they want. Just get players in their store for some fun and friendly magic. Win these pins and foils. Next month, we got the Otter coming down the pipeline. And then to close out the year in December, the Reindeer. You want to get your hands on Game Night, head over to starcitygames.com/game night or contact your Star City Games in-store play representative.
Jeskai Black, Bat Megamorph. I think when we get that metagame breakdown from Nick Miller, those are going to be probably Megamorph in some capacity, be it Banter, Green White, and then Jeskai Black. I wouldn't be surprised if those are the top 2 played decks.
I agree. That would be my guess as well.
Yeah, it would be no surprise to me at all.
Tarka's Command decks, Esper Dragons, and 4 to 5 color Bring to Light mid-range decks.
That'll round it out.
I would be my guess. I can get behind Esper Dragons right now. I like that deck.
I like it a pretty fair amount. We had 2 in the top 8 at SCG Indy last weekend, and it's almost like that just kind of went unnoticed a little bit.
I think so too. And if you want to play a control deck, I think you need to be somewhat proactive. Just because of the way that the Bam Megamorph decks and the Green White Megamorph decks work, you can't be sitting on your heels all day long. Card drawing and the counters aren't that good to promote that sort of thing. But you get a lot of removal that exiles, and the dragons are very good as well.
If I was playing control, I'd want to be much more like a Solar Flare type control.
Exactly. I want to be tapping out every turn. I want to be doing proactive things. I want to be pressuring my opponent.
I'm going to blunt you over the head with a very powerful object every turn.
It's very hard to play a draw-go, counter everything you do sort of game plan against Den Protector Death Disruptor.
Yeah.
The green decks have arguably a better late game than you do by sitting on your hands all day long trying to draw cards. So I like trading off turns early on in the game with counters and removal spells. I like exiling things along the way to prevent the graveyard from mattering as much as possible, and then trying to shut the door with a dragon. That seems like a winning strategy to me right now.
Anderson down to 6. We'll take a look at his opening hand, and if he does keep it, don't forget the Vancouver Mulligan rule is now in effect in Magic. So that means he'll get to scry 1. And it is time for him to scry that top card. It's going to be a top card. Bloodstained Mire here for Betts. Chris will start off with the Wooded Foothills. We got ourselves a Warden of the first tree on the way here off the Basic Forest, folks. That gets game number 3 underway. Over to Betts we go. A Flooded Strand. He might have a Jace to start. And he's had Jace on turn 2 all 3 games. Though, for what it's worth, it could be a Soulfire Grandmaster as well, perhaps removal spell. I just have a feeling.
All right, past an island, might be getting to Plains here.
I think he is getting a Plains. It looks like it's going to be a Soulfire Grandmaster. Over to Chris Anderson we'll go. Jamoka's Command the draw. Wooded Foothills the land. Chris just going to pass the turn back.
Please report to the stage. Eddie Knowles and Chris Fennell, please report to the stage.
Fetch land will be sacrificed here by Betts. He'll get himself a Sunken Hollow. Mana's online.
This is the setup right here.
Yep.
With these 3 lands, colored mana is not an issue for anything other than dig through time.
Which, oddly enough, Betts does have in his hand. And a turn 3 Tasker is a pretty nice play. Anderson going to sacrifice that Wooded Foothills. He might have a Canopy Vista on the way. He might be considering Basic Forest, and he's going to get that so that the rest of the battle lands under the battlefield untapped.
Yeah, it has something to do with 2 mana this turn, which is activate the Warden. And then going forward, all of his fetch lands find untapped dual lands, so he doesn't need to get something untapped here.
Now he'll draw. Stratus Dancer is what he's found. Does have a copy of Windswept Heath in hand. That'll be the white mana there for the Warden to activate, along with a bevy of other things. Now we go back Betts' way. In comes Tasigur. Anderson going to fall down to 14.
And I like Betts taking the position here of just trying to clock Anderson. It's not even like Betts is conceding very much as the game develops because he has Tasigur to sink his mana into. But it's important to get in front on the board against this Megamorph deck, as we've seen. The vulnerability to this deck is when it's getting pressured, backed up by removal.
Yes. Warden is going to attempt a level, and it looks like it's going to work. Now Betts is doing this thing that this Jeskai Black deck likes to do, which is to pass the 4 mana up.
Yep.
Say I have Ochitai's Command.
And now Anderson might be forced to run something into Ochitai's Command because with Betts having something to do with his mana left over and activating Tasigur, he can't just sit here and wait. He might just have to bite the bullet, throw something into Cryptic Command. Though my preference here would have been for Betts to just sack the Flooded Strand straight away. He's going to use 4 mana this turn regardless, either casting spells or activating Tasigur. And I would hate to see your Tasigur get hit with Valorous Stance at the end of the turn in response to you sacrificing the Flooded Strand.
Then you don't even get the activation.
Exactly. So
there's 3 mana from Chris. He'll play a Morph. That says that's fine. Now he'll sacrifice that Flooded Strand. We'll see what land Jacob wants to get here. I imagine it's a blue producer. It's another copy of Sunken Hollow. This will allow him to activate Tasigur, and we'll see if Tasigur yields him anything useful. Dragmaster Outcast, Ochitai's Command.
that counts.
Yes, it does. You get an Outcast, which is not a good look.
You can't give him the Ochitai's Command, as that ends up in the same place.
And now Radiant Flames is the draw. Well, that's going to clear everything away, and keep in mind, this has lifelink. So
that's 12.
this is a real humdinger.
And gets to attack for 4.
Den Protector was the morph, so that's gone. Somebody needs Valor Stance right now. The follow-up is Chase. Boy, this is a draw. That Chase isn't free, so he's going to have to tap mana for that card.
Though I think there might have been a slightly better way to run that one. I guess there's no way to prevent him from losing the Soulfire Grandmaster. That's going to happen regardless if he attacks first or... So, nothing to be done with it.
A morph there from Chris, an activation of the Jace. Jace will be flipping. There's an attack for 4. Radiant Flames will take care of the morph. There goes Stratus Dancer. Dragmaster Outcast, the follow-up. And land number 6.
Good turn.
Sometimes you just get crushed. So that is going to do it. Chris, I think, is going to show him his hand. I think Chris finally just drew land number 4. This is a game in which we saw turn 2 Soulfire Grandmaster, turn 3 Tasigur, turn 4 activate Tasigur, turn 5 Radiant Flames, and absolutely annihilate you. Jacob Betts going to win this match over Chris Anderson 2-1. Jeskai Black will take care of Bent Megamorph, and for Betts, he moves on to 9-1. Anderson slides down to 8-2. We got 5 more rounds of action left here today, and it looks to be a pretty good one to start the day off.